The NBA today has evolved a lot from the previous decade as a league filled with stars who were mid-range isolation players, slashers, and post scorers in 2015 are now replaced with three-level scorers that have been able to shoot more efficiently, as well as one-way specialists either on offense or defense being replaced with 3 and D players, as well as two-way players being effective on both sides of the court. This was not only an evolution for players, but an evolution for front offices and coaching staffs around the league, as their strategy for more three-point attempts and more efficient shots within the paint had made it more difficult for players to adapt to that style of play. This led to some players being bounced out of the league entirely. Other players were good enough to keep playing their style of basketball, like Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. Even a player like DeMar DeRozan that's been able to stay effective as a mid-range player still tried to expand his game and shoot threes. So with this new era of basketball affecting the entire league, some players were able to adapt to the shooting, pacing, and versatility to become good players of two different eras, but with vastly different games. And the first player I'm going to talk about who adapted well to this new era is Al Horford. Horford was drafted by the Hawks in 2007, where he would spend his first 8 seasons in Atlanta, where he would have the most success individually, making 4 All-Star appearances and would get an All-NBA team selection in 2011. Horford was a well-rounded center, being very skillful in the post as well as driving and shooting around the mid-range area as a face-up 5. He also showcased his high IQ and mobility as a big, being able to drive past slower-footed centers, as well as being a versatile defender guarding players on the perimeter if he was switched to a guard. Horford's spacing at the time in the early 2010s was perfect for the Atlanta Hawks, as many key players that played around him at this time could finish and drive in less crowded paints due to the opposing center having to guard Horford in the mid-range area. As some players were getting reduced roles or just phased out completely out of the NBA's new style of play, Al Horford was fortunate enough to be at the right place at the right time.
I got injured in 2011. 2012, beginning of 2012. At the time with the Hawks, Rick Sund was our GM, and he sat me down. He said, like, listen, the way that you're playing the game, it's you want to play physical, you want to bang down low, but he was like, your body's not gonna hold up. I've seen you shoot the ball. I feel like you can shoot. You could shoot the corner 3. We went through a transition in Atlanta where Danny Ferry came in, Coach Budenholzer came in, and his staff, and Kenny Atkinson was one of the assistants that worked with me. They really gave me the confidence to shoot the threes. They wanted me to shoot them from everywhere.
So Horford went from averaging less than 1 3 a game in his first 7 seasons to taking 3 a game in his last season with the Hawks. After the 2016 offseason though, Al Horford signed with the Boston Celtics in free agency, and after the signing, the Celtics would continue to use Horford in that role as a floor spacing 5, playing a big part in their success in the late 2010s as well as individually, as Horford would get another All-Star selection in 2018. As Horford got older, his shot chart changed a lot, as he went from a player taking most of his shots inside the arc to having most of his attempts become 3-pointers and fully turning into a stretch 5. This system played a key role in the Celtics' success and deep playoff runs in the late 2010s and 2020s that led to 2 finals appearances, one being where Horford was a full-time starter, and the second where he had to fill in for Kristaps Porzingis for the last 3 rounds in 2024, where the Celtics would win the title. Again, someone like Al Horford was very fortunate enough to have the right personnel around him to show him where the league was going in the mid-2010s. Someone else who would have that same stroke of luck though would be Brook Lopez. The 7'1" center started his NBA career in 2008 as a New Jersey Net that soon turned into the Brooklyn Nets in 2012. Where in his first 8 seasons, Lopez would play mainly as a back-to-the-basket big that was more utilized in the low post and the paint. Then in his 9th season as a Net in 2017, he bumped up his 3-point attempts from almost 0 a game to 5 per game, and he would finish the season being close to league average in 3-point percentage. This change in play style was caused by a new offensive system with Kenny Atkinson as the new head coach in 2017, where Atkinson would be coming in from the coaching staff for the Atlanta Hawks, that same Atlanta Hawks team that turned Al Horford into a 3-point shooting center a year before in 2016. After the 2017 season, Brook Lopez would get traded to the Lakers, meaning Lopez in his situation now had to get used to a new role, as the Lakers at the time was focusing on rebuilding. which meant more opportunities for the younger players and prospects, and with that, Lopez would get less minutes and less opportunities to score, mostly having him on the court to space the floor. And this would continue in the 2019 season where Lopez would join the Bucks, and this helped a superstar in Giannis, where he would have another option in Lopez to drive and kick to once the help came. And this would lead to deep playoff runs in 2019 as well as into the 2020s as they would win a championship in 2021. Shooting wasn't the only thing that transformed Brook Lopez's game for today's NBA, but it was also his defense, as the Bucks system made him more effective on defense for the first time of his career. As most players outside of the star players have to be able to play defense at some capacity, with some of these players getting a diminished role because of their lack of defense. Lopez is a slow-footed big, especially on the perimeter where he would get torched, and most teams would take advantage of that. The coaching staff in Milwaukee, however, had a system in place to minimize Lopez's weaknesses while also bringing out his strength as a shot blocker. So when the opposing teams would bring out mainly pick and rolls to try and get Brook Lopez on the perimeter and in a mismatch, Brook Lopez would mainly be used in drop coverage on pick and rolls, essentially sagging off of ball screens to protect the paint from the roller as well as the ball handler, while having the defensive personnel on the perimeter to prevent open threes, forcing the opposing offense in these pick and roll scenarios to shoot mid-range shots, which through analytics is the NBA's worst shot to take right now. So Brook Lopez became a star role player in both offense and defense in his roles as a three-point shooter and shot blocker. So a main contributor that helped Lopez in that defensive system on the perimeter is also another player who adapted to the current NBA smoothly as a guard, and that's Jrue Holiday, who's been having a successful second half of his career in the 2020s, where he'd win the championship in 2021 with that same Bucks team that included Brook Lopez, as well as winning in 2024 with the Celtics, playing alongside a stacked starting lineup with that team including another player I mentioned earlier in Al Horford. Who Jrue Holiday became in the latter half of his career is a little bit different than how he came into the league, as he started his career as a Philadelphia 76er as he was drafted there in 2009. Holiday would have some success on the Sixers in his first 4 seasons as a starting point guard in the league, making the playoffs twice and averaging 17 points and 8 assists in his last season, where he would become an all-star in 2013. Though after the 2013 season, Jrue Holiday would get traded to the New Orleans Pelicans. And this would be the part of Holiday's career when the game began to change, as at the start of his stint in New Orleans, he would come in as the starting point guard, but he would be plagued by injuries in his first 2 seasons. By his 3rd season, however, they would acquire Tyreke Evans, and he would become more of a point forward beside Jrue Holiday. But this wouldn't affect Holiday compared to other more ball-dominant point guards, as him and Evans were able to coexist on offense and play well. From then on, Holiday continued his career on the Pelicans as more of a combo guard, not being the primary distributor like he was in Philly, playing alongside passing point guards like Rajon Rondo, Elfrid Payton, and Lonzo Ball. This meant Holiday also had to guard opposing wings on defense, which was something that he wasn't used to at the time, mostly being effective at guarding point guards and some smaller sized shooting guards. So while he was transitioning to the shooting guard position, he bulked up in this time to match the physicality of playing the wing position. With that, Holiday was able to guard almost anybody on the perimeter. Holiday's offensive role would change too, but because of his natural scoring and ball handling, Holiday was able to transition quickly offensively as well. This transition made Holiday a great two-way player that was adaptable to any NBA team at the time, which made him more valuable compared to who he was as an all-star years ago, as playing this role for the Pelicans near the end of his stint caught the attention of many teams around the league, and the struggling Pelicans traded Holiday to a contender in the Milwaukee Bucks, with them shifting Holiday back to the point guard position and splitting responsibilities as a facilitator with Giannis Antetokounmpo, which was a role that Holiday was familiar with already. In this role, Holiday was able to flourish, becoming a top 3 option on offense while also guarding the opposing team's best players, as Holiday was strong enough to guard wing players while being stronger than most other point guards, as he kind of was able to bully them around more often. His play on the Bucks would earn him another All-Star appearance and become a top two-way role player in the NBA. Whether it was in Milwaukee as a point guard or right now on the Celtics as a combo guard with lower usage on offense, his versatility and IQ on defense makes him one of the most impressive players that adapted to today's NBA. And to finish this topic off with another guard who was able to adapt to the current NBA, not only refining his game for the current NBA standards, but his body's limitations as well, is none other than the recently retired Derrick Rose. So for a player like Derrick Rose, his career started as one of the most exciting players the league has ever seen. From his amazing speed, quickness, and unorthodox shifty movement that players couldn't keep up with, Rose's speed combined with his crazy hops and him being able to dunk over anyone at only 6'3", also combined with his creative and acrobatic finishes around the rim, led him to being a fan favorite all over the NBA with his highlight plays every night. His first 4 seasons in the league was highlighted with a Rookie of the Year award in 2009, 3 All-Star appearances, and the MVP award, where Derrick Rose would lead the Chicago Bulls to a 62-20 record in 2011. Which was good for the first seed over the recently made Big Three in Miami with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. This is where the misfortune soon started, as after the season in 2011, Derrick Rose in the 2012 season would be plagued with injuries, leading to his worst injury, tearing his ACL in the 2012 playoffs. This injury changed his career, as he would never be the same player athletically on the court. As though he still had the ability, his durability just wasn't there, as Rose couldn't do what he's done before throughout an 82-game season. Rose after the 2012 season would miss the entire 2013 season, and then from the 2014 season onwards to the 2018 season, he would be in a constant battle to stay healthy, as injuries would continue to pile up as he kept getting older. So in this time Derrick Rose has been dealing with injuries, 3 things have changed. For Rose, his jumping ability just isn't there due to the strain that it will put on his body, and his speed and quickness isn't at the elite level that it was. And the third thing was that the NBA was in a complete new era, as analytics and shot creation was emphasized to generate open threes and efficient shots in or around the paint. And with his declining 3-point percentage after his MVP season to the 2018 season, it looked like the career of Derrick Rose might have ended sooner than later. But then Rose would land in Minnesota to join the Timberwolves with some familiar faces, and this is where Rose's career would change for the better. Rose increased his 3-point percentage with the Timberwolves in the 2019 season to a respectable 37% and would continue to show improvements in the next few seasons after. He'd also be able to stay efficient around the paint, as his dunks and downhill speed in the full court was replaced with Rose using his natural shiftiness paired with his quickness to get into the paint in the half court. Then using more close shots around the paint and free throw area using floaters and runners that was able to add another dimension to Rose's game. Even though nagging injuries would still play a part into the end of Derrick Rose's career, I think Rose, if he was more healthy, would have definitely adjusted well to how the NBA game is played today. Rose accomplished a very rare feat in the NBA by adapting his playstyle not only to the NBA's new era, but also the changes and limitations to his body as well. So if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.